Hey everybody, Matt here from Matt's Movies, Music and More, and my special guest Andrew, welcoming you to this week's episode of What Did You Think? I like that.
Thank you.
So, if you recall seeing our last video, which came from a unique pick, which was Andrew's pick, given that we have no Patreons, he picked the movie Cannibal the Musical to talk about. So, if you like that and you like the South Park guys, check that video out and see what we both think about that film.
Yeah.
So on to today's movie. The twister spinner in the last episode landed on superheroes. So to replace this movie that we are going to be talking about today, I've come up with not a Marvel and not a DC movie. Instead, I've got it linking to someone who's involved in that, which is we are doing the 2000 movie The Specials, which is written by James Gunn.
Interesting.
So, as we film this, James Gunn has recently been reappointed to be the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 after being fired nearly a year ago.
And now all is right with the universe, hopefully, or at least all is right with the internet.
Yes. So, I felt that given that that is something that's going on at this moment in time, and the fact that that is a superhero movie, it's not from a universe that you know, I thought maybe you might want to check out The Specials.
Now that you've mentioned James Gunn, you have stoked my curiosity. Yes.
Excellent. So on to today. So as you recall, on superheroes, the last one we actually did was a DC one, which was Justice League. So now, could this one be much better? Instead, now we are talking about the 1994 Marvel.
Hang on. If you say that, you might give people the wrong impression that it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe connected storyline doohickey. Shall we just, for technicalities and legal reasons, shall we just say the Roger Corman universe or something?
Okay. So the 1994 Roger Corman produced movie, The Fantastic Four, which is directed by Oley Sassone, and it is starring Alex Hyde-White, Jay Underwood, Rebecca Staab, Michael Bailey Smith, and Joseph Culp as Dr. Doom. So, The Fantastic Four from 1994. So, for all you guys out there who love Marvel Universe and everything like that, this was the first one.
The first one?
I think this was the first of the Marvel movies. Oh, actually, Captain America, sorry, which was produced also by, I think, Malcolm Golem, actually, Captain America from 1990.
And are we counting The Punisher here?
Yes, shit, I forgot about that too. The Dolph Lundgren movie, The Punisher. So, this was at a time...
Every time before the beloved Marvel Cinematic Universe is a dark and murky period we can't remember anymore.
Yeah, because this was the thing, because the DC Universe was king, because Batman came out in 1988 or 89 and was the huge box office hit, spawning its sequels. And obviously Superman in 1979 or 78. Yep, you correct me here if I'm wrong. So DC were really the top ones. Marvel were struggling with TV, like Spider-Man, the TV series, and the animate, and the Incredible Hulk, which I know Marvel were not a big fan of the TV series because it went completely off track with the David Banner, not Bruce Banner.
Yeah, which I can understand.
So yeah, so there was a period where Marvel were really struggling financially.
Yeah, believe it or not. Shall I start with the behind-the-scenes premise of this movie rather than the plot? I'll say outright, you are not getting an official copy, commercially released copy of this movie. You are not getting an official commercially released copy of this movie. Officially, this movie does not exist.
So this is a bit like the holiday special of Star Wars.
In the sense of where it eventually ended up, but just as Matt has set up, believe it or not, boys and girls, there was a time when Marvel as a company were not doing so well, and I do mean that in a financial sense. To the I don't know if this was the 80s or the dark period of comics in the 90s that we do not speak of, when everything was extreme, but I'm going off topic. Marvel were not doing so well that they had to sell off their properties, the commercial rights of their properties to other companies. That, yet again, remember that once upon a time, Marvel Studios was not a thing. That was a decade or two from now. But before we get to that, there was this one German company or something, Constantin Films, if I remember rightly, had got the rights to do a Fantastic Four movie, which they held on to for a long time. And then when they saw that the expiry date for those rights were coming up, they thought, oh crud, we need to hold on to them a bit more, even if it's just to sell it off to another company like Fox, more on which later. But oh no, we've only got a month or two to do this. So they turned to Roger Corman, a renowned exploitation B-movie supremo, to say, we need you to make a Fantastic Four movie. We don't intend to release it. We don't intend this to be a major hit, but we need to make something and do it as cheaply for the minimal budget possible. And they started shooting like 3 days before the rights were due to expire, so they could say, look, we've made a movie, we can hold on to the rights for 7 more years. So there was no intention to do anything miraculous or fantastic with the special effects. They didn't hire any big name stars. I think it was shot cheaply as well. But hey, the movie it wasn't even released. It just existed as a thing in the universe. So when other Fantastic Four movies, which I'll let you describe, were made and released by Fox, the producer Avi Arad was so incensed because I think even by this point, the people that were aware of this 1994 movie, it had a reputation for just being bad. Because it was cheap, it was bad, and so Avi Arad did not want this tainting the legacy of his beloved Fantastic Four movies. So he ordered that all official copies of this movie, be wiped out and purged from the face of the earth, like George Lucas had a similar reaction with the Star Wars Holiday Special. This is horrible, I want people to forget about it. And he would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those pesky convention bootleggers. So through bootleg DVD copies and through internet, certain popular internet channels, which I will not say out loud, but you can watch this movie, and that's what we did. I think that covers everything.
I think that covers everything, but like I will say briefly, which is, as you said, that Marvel were struggling. Did you know that in the 80s that Canon Films with Menachem Golem actually picked up the rights to make a Spider-Man movie in the 80s, and they were going to get Chuck Norris to be Spider-Man? So that never happened, thank God.
And he would have turned into a spider monster.
Yeah.
This is how much people cared back then.
Yeah, and obviously, as you said earlier, you had The Punisher, which came out with Dolph Lundgren in that, and Captain America, which was made by Menachem Golem. So this was around the time that the Batman series with Batman and Batman Returns and Batman Forever, these were the movies that people wanted to see. So DC was ruling high, Marvel not so much. But yeah, they were struggling financially. I think they went into bankruptcy and were brought out and stuff like that. But with the consequences of them having to sell their properties, that's something that they are still having to sort of fix now, aren't they? Because
there's still some fallout, even though we've now got Marvel Studios with the Avengers and all the heroes that they have under this belt for years, and to some degree up to now, they've had to pick up the pieces of those decisions they had to make back in the 80s, like the Incredible Hulk is technically owned by Universal, but he is allowed to be in the Avengers.
Spider-Man's with Sony.
And that was a bugbear for a very, very long time. But after The Amazing Spider-Man 2 flopped horribly, that became a point of negotiation and contention. Even though now we're getting spin-off movies without Spider-Man in them. And
then obviously this one, which is the big one, which is that Fox Fox
And
have just been brought by Marvel after a number of years of them trying to acquire their own movies properties back, because Fox not only had the rights to the Fantastic Four movies, but they also had the rights to the X-Men films.
That was a real bugbear for a long time. That I hear stories that the then head of Marvel Studios, Ike Perlmutter, I hope I'm getting this correct, would have a poster up of the X-Men movie in his office specifically so he could come in every morning and spit at it. That's the story I've heard. And he tried to pitch the Inhumans as a movie, but then that got downgraded to a TV series. Like, this will be our X-Men. No, it wasn't.
So I suppose that's a little bit about the history of the movie, although I do want to ask one thing before we go into this plot. Was it intended that the movie would never get released? They just wanted to make it just to keep the rights? Because
That is the common consensus, yes.
Because if so, who would want to sign up to be involved in a project like that? Because you clearly would like your work to be seen on the big screen.
The story I keep hearing is that everybody involved was tricked into believing that this would be released.
Yeah.
The actors, the director, the production team were told that this was going to be released in theatres, and it was only shortly after they finished it they were like, oh no, it's been shelved or cancelled or some excuse.
And that's really sad. I mean, given the fact that back in the early 1990s when this movie went into production, that clearly publicity stills would have been in all the magazines, movie magazines, sci-fi magazines, that sort of thing back in the day. So this was clearly an anticipated project. But I suppose let's get into the plot, because we haven't gotten into the plot yet. So.
Well, I half don't want to spoil it, and half it's such a simplistic, straightforward story that there almost isn't anything to talk about. I will, for entertainment's sake, recite the premise and the origin of the Fantastic Four through the song they used in the intro to the 1990s cartoon. I won't sing it, don't worry.
Okay.
But, on an outer space adventure, they were hit by cosmic rays. The Four were changed forever in the most fantastic ways. There's no need to fear. Let's call the Four Fantastic Four. Reed Richards is elastic. Sue can fade from sight. Johnny is the Human Torch. The Thing just loves to fight. That's who they are, but this is their origin story. There's a bit, I suppose, that there is a 10 years earlier setup with Reed Richards, scientist student Reed Richards, and his good friend Victor. Is he called Von Doom? Do they call him Von Doom?
I think so.
There is a guy out there called Victor Von Doom, which comes problematic in later movies, but let's not worry about that right now. They do an experiment to test out interstellar travel, and Victor Von Doom wants to cut corners and do the experiment right now. Guess where that gets him? Reed Richards thinks his best friend is dead, but two suspicious characters carry off the supposed corpse to say, we have to get our majesty back to Latveria. 10 years later, Reed, along with his good friend Ben Grimm and Sue Storm and Johnny Storm, they've built the spacecraft now. They've got a glowy crystal thing that will power the rocket, and they're going into space to do this. Except that night, a criminal, an unfortunate Jewish stereotype criminal called the Jeweler. They call him the Jeweler, but he's ugly looking. He lives in an underground lair with other people. He lives in a subterranean world. He's the king of the subterranean world, and there's a woman, a blind artist in this called Alicia, who falls for Ben Grimm. And he's, I want that woman to be my queen. All I'm saying is he's called the Jeweler, but from my comics knowledge, he's the Mole Man. Did they just did they not have the rights to the mole man, or did they just not care? Anyway, the jeweler goes, it is a pretty jewel fit for my queen, and he replaces it with a not glowy crystal, and that's enough for them when they go out into space. Oh no, something's gone wrong, we're going to crash, which we don't see, but they were exposed to cosmic rays whilst they were in space, so now, yeah, they've got the powers, and there's whilst the jeweler was stealing this, we got this masked individual saying, I want the glowy green crystal. And who is this gentleman? And eventually the fantastic our heroes come across him. I am Doom, and Reed eventually figures out that's my old friend Victor, and they're figuring out their powers, and blah blah blah. Ben Grimm, who's been turned into a rock monster, is understandably upset that he's turned into a rock monster. I'm rambling now, but that hopefully sets up the very simple, straightforward plot of this.
Yeah, best way I can say this is it's a very 90s movie. Very, very 90s film. And
in what respect?
Well, with the way it looks, the attitudes of the characters, it's not like overblown pop music or anything is playing or anything like that, or any pop culture references. It's a world within its own universe. You've got this weird scenario, which is that Reed and Ben live in a boarding house. And this is when they're at college together, and they're living with the woman who is, I think, is she the mother of Johnny and Sue?
I want to say she's the mother because of the line that Ben Grimm delivers about, hey, Mrs. Storm, can Johnny and Sue come with us out into space?
Yeah, because as you watch it, you see Johnny and Sue as young kids.
About 10 years earlier.
Yeah, and then it goes on later. Reed and Ben look the same, except Reed's got a little bit of grey in the side of his hair.
Yeah, and also 10 years earlier, Sue, as 13 years old, had a thing for Reed back then. He's so
dreamy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like she looks like a mature 20-something woman, and she's like, "Hello, Reed. Hello, Sue."
I fancied you back when I was 13 years old.
And Johnny, who is very kind of oblivious to the relationship, he's kind of like, "Come on, sis, let's go," and stuff like that. I've always wanted to go to space and stuff. So, I don't really want to describe too much more about the plot, but I kind of would like to go on about the actors in this movie. I think it's good casting, personally.
They definitely work. I'd like to get in a little bit about one of my favourite bits about this movie is the script writing, in that it had to do the origin of the Fantastic Four. It had to do Doctor Doom. Who are these people? Why do they react the way they do, in the way that was faithful to the comics? There's no filler in this. There's no waffle. There's no needless side scenes. Everything is designed to do exactly what it's supposed to do. The story makes straightforward sense with its glowing crystals and people who want to take over the world, and you can tell the script writer cared about doing the best economical job with this, and the actors, which makes me believe the whole they were tricked and they didn't know that it was just not a proper movie, because they are committed to this. They come across as friends and family. They come across as good people, maybe in a cheesy way, but also in a very sincere way.
Because the movie apparently cost $1 million to make. Yeah. So I have heard stories, and we'll talk about that at the end, but I've heard stories that there were a lot of planned special effects that they had already worked on for this movie, only for them to be said, no, we can't afford to do it.
No.
So there's a real lot of cost cutting in this movie.
There's a lot of camera trickery with Reed Richards stretching his arm out.
Yes, especially with some sort of bendy arm where it's like,
Oh yeah, one of the last scenes in the movie is a very obvious stick.
But I would like to say that I don't know what your opinion is of the movie, but given that the release of this movie a couple of years later, I think it was, Marvel had the TV animated series of the Fantastic Four, which was a big hit in the late 1990s. Is that right?
I remember watching it.
Yeah. And then given that they obviously had the property go to Fox, Fox decided to bring out in 2004 or 2005 the Fantastic Four movie, which starred Ian Grufford and Jessica Alba and Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis. Yeah, so they were in this Fantastic Four. Now, this one I thought was very different. That particular one, because it was very much like, you know, they send them up to space. You see them all on the space with Victor Von Doom, played by I forget his name, the guy from Nip Tuck, and apologies to him. Basically, that movie, it took itself very seriously. There was a little bit of humour in particularly one line, which was where they were introducing the Fantastic Four on the red carpet or something at some event, and they were saying, like, the Human Torch, who can set himself on fire, and then they were like, Sue Storm, who can turn invisible, and then they were like, Reed Richards, who can extend any part of his body, and a woman then in the crowd goes, And that was the one bit that I remember in that movie, was that little sexual reference joke.
What does that tell you about that movie?
Yeah. And then obviously this was a huge success for Fox, so they decided to greenlight the sequel, which was 2007 Rise of the Silver Surfer, which, that was a hard one to watch, definitely. I don't know what your opinion was on that.
It's it's a follow-up, it's a sequel, so let's do the same thing again.
And then, obviously, clearly that they weren't going to go in that direction again, given that Chris Evans had now become Captain America. So he stayed at the universe.
It's like the very next year, the Marvel Cinematic Universe started, and things, the whole Fox movies versus Marvel movies escalated very quickly from there. I think. I've heard that in Rise of the Silver Surfer they wanted Nick Fury, or the nasty general, I'm gonna, get in your way and stop you doing what you want to do general character was meant to be Nick Fury, but Marvel's said no, we don't want you to do that. And if you saw the end of Iron Man, you would see why.
But obviously Fox then decided, okay, maybe it's time to reboot the Fantastic Four, because it's kind of been the sort of, like with Sony and Spider-Man, they've kept taking different approaches and different directions.
Oh, God. I know what you're going to talk about. I don't know if we have the time for it, but I hope one day I can tear the 2015 Fan 4 stick. I refuse to call it anything else because that's what they spelt on the poster. It's Fan 4 stick.
Yeah.
I hope one day we can talk about that in isolation, because, oh God, have I got so much to say about that.
Yeah, so that movie came out in 2015, and it was a box office disaster. It cost a lot of money, I think nearly $100 million or something, and I think it barely took 15 because people just weren't interested, because it was going in a darker direction. I don't think the casting was that great, personally, for that movie, with the exception of maybe Michael B. Jordan, who I thought was really good. But then I like him more in Black Panther than in that movie. I see a good movie there in a bad film situation. So if I was to rank them, I don't know if you would want to do this on camera, it's entirely up to you, but I would kind of have at the bottom, with the 4 Fantastic Four movies, ironic, 4 movies in that series, I would have the Rise of the Silver Surfer at dead last. I thought that was pretty terrible. And then the 2004 one, I think I would have there at 3rd place. And in 2nd place, I'd have the 2015 one. I think it's actually a better movie than those other ones. And I know that that's going to completely wind you up. But for me, this 1994 version of the Fantastic Four, it's the best one, in my opinion. This is the best Fantastic Four movie because It doesn't take itself seriously. The actors are committed to the role. They're very, very likeable characters. Even Joseph Culp, who plays Victor Von Doom, he's likeable. It's the performances they put in, and I really like the actors involved in this. I think they're really good. I don't know what your opinion is, and if you want to maybe make your top 4 ranking.
Well, Fan Four Stick is at the bottom, and this 1994 movie is at the top.
So you'd say this is the best as well?
Yes. I mean, how sad is that, with all the rights problems that this group of heroes has suffered over the past couple of decades, and they bungled attempts to reboot it or redo it, and get to the core of these characters. How sad and terrible is it that the cheap version that wasn't even supposed to be seen is the one that gets these characters right?
Do you think it's because the likability and the chemistry of the actors in this movie compared to the other ones, where it just seems to be a bit of a mismatch
with Jessica Alba and
yeah,
oh god, what's his name? Miles Teller.
Oh god, yeah. But yeah, do you think that this is why this movie is more fondly remembered? Is because the fact that these actors are coming into it and it's a bit of fun.
That it knows it's fun and cheap. Well, it knows it's fun, and it commits itself to.
You can imagine
the Fantastic Four, who are inherently this cheesy, fun, quippy family group.
It wouldn't fit out of place of like the 1960s Batman TV series, I'd probably say.
Yeah, in a similar vein, to counter your earlier point about you know that this is a 90s movie, I'd say maybe it's the bootleg quality of the copies that we've got. I don't know if the film quality of the cameras was any better in the official versions that have now been burned to ash. You watch it and it feels more like the pilot for a TV series from the 70s or the 80s.
Dare I say,
and then you look at the time of this, and this is not too long after Jurassic Park came out. I know that's comparing budgets and everything, but you think that it feels more old-fashioned in comparison to anything around this period that came out, at least in my opinion.
Well, you've got like with the Doctor Doom or whatever in this movie, it's kind of got that typical stereotype, hasn't it?
Doctor Doom is inherently an operatic villain. He's behind a mask. I think some say he was the inspiration for Darth Vader, but he's giving it full welly here with the "I have the crystal,"
and he's
having to do a lot with his hands because I don't think they could afford to dub it or something, but he's exaggerating, going, the word will be mine. And the bit that always makes me laugh, you have 12 hours to surrender yourself to me. Was that the actor? Was that the script? Was that really necessary that you had to say you've got 12 hours and a spell? Yeah. What good does that do?
Yeah, but I mean, he's got that sort of like that operatic laugh, like with the Doctor Evil, with like the you know, like that,
and lines of dialogue. How disappointing! Part of the thrill is the chase. You disappoint me, Richards.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to sum up any more about the movie, but I feel that, as I said earlier, this is the best Fantastic Four movie. And if I had to put this amongst Marvel's movies of the current cinematic universe, even though that would be a very, very different argument, this beats some of those cinematic universe movies, i.e. Iron Man 2, which is a disappointment.
As much as you're putting something in a group of films that it doesn't belong to, I can't argue with that.
Yes, but the one thing I do want to say about this is there was a documentary that came out in 2015, and if you are people that want to check out this movie, I would say check this out first, and then check out this documentary which came out in 2015 called Doomed, the untold story of the Fantastic Four movie from 1994. And it talks to all the people involved, the director and the actors and everything, and they tell it from their side, which is that they signed up to do this movie, they were cast, I mean, Alex Hyde-White, who's the lead actor, is an English actor who has been working in America for a number of years. He was in Biggles and Pretty Woman, so he's in decent movies, and he's obviously gone into this, but all of these actors in it are not exactly name actors, so, you know, I think that's a good thing.
It takes away from any anticipation of a star name, now that you mention it.
And even the actors that play the roles, like I think Michael Bailey Smith, who plays Ben Grimm, he's extremely likeable. Really, really great acting in this movie. And it's like when you see him have the interaction with Alicia, the blind artist, he bumps into her, she thinks that he's a little bit angry with her, and he is a little bit, and then he's like, well, I didn't mean that. And then straight away she kind of falls in love, and she kind of then does this kind of Lionel Richie hello sort of moulding, this is what I picture your face as.
Yeah.
But no, I think the casting is really good in this film, and I think commending the casting directors and all the people involved to make this movie. It's just such a shame it's made for the wrong purposes.
Yeah. This is definitely a so cheap that you can't help but chuckle at it. You can't get away from how cheap it is and how obvious that is on screen at times. I mean, another thing that made me laugh, not so much made me laugh, but made me roll my eyes, is that there's a couple of times, like when we have to have a fight scene with the goons, that they achieve this by doing comedy boing sound effects and spinning the camera round, and then suddenly the goons are unconscious.
Yes, I remember that scene. That was funny.
It's like, really, was that a real joke, or could you just not afford an action scene? There's another bit again when Ben Grimm has come out of he's transformed back into a human, but he needs to transform back into the rock monster, so he screams, and then the camera does another spinny whirly thing to disguise the fact that they can't change the costume on screen. There is a cheapness to it, and it is a bit of a cliche to say that when people are dedicated enough, when they care, that they overcome a cheap budget and they produce something that people can care about and can go along with, that they can tell that without a proper budget, effort has been put into it. And that's what I describe this movie as. Effort has been put into the script to describe the origin of the Fantastic Four. Effort has been put in by the actors to convey this. And even with lines that us postmodern 21st century people would roll our eyes at loud now. There's a bit in the climactic fight of please spare me, and all right, I will spare. Oh, you are so gullible. Ha 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 ha. But you can have, whether you're laughing at it or you can even laugh with it. You can have you will have a smile watching this. Unlike Fantastic, which I hope one day I can get to tear a new orifice into in a constructive manner.
Maybe we'll do that at some point, yeah.
But that represents the other extreme for me. But in the meantime, I do urge you to search this one out.
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing before we continue, which is that I thought the special effects for The Thing was really interesting in this, although it does a lot of eyebrow raising, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's like animatronics, I'm guessing, for that.
At least they put effort into that.
So yeah, I don't think we can really sum up any more about Fantastic Four. But
I think.
if you definitely are interested in checking it out, I'd say definitely go on to social media and other sites like YouTube and whatever to see this movie, because it'll be the one way you can see it without getting in trouble from the studios at Marvel. But also definitely check out that documentary Doom. They may even get us to cover it at some point, because it is a really interesting documentary. So yeah, so that's the plan.
And I think it's time.
Yeah, Twister Spinner time. So let's see what it will pick this time. So without further ado, let's spin that wheel. So it's landed on WTF.
Right.
So it means that the WTF movie that we've got for this one is the 1993 Australian black comedy horror drama Bad Boy Bubby.
Oh.
You know that one?
No.
No? Okay, you don't sound very enthusiastic about that. But trust me, I think you'll enjoy this one.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
So thanks very much everybody for checking it out. Don't forget to check out on the channel, like and subscribe. Check out our series on there. We've got At the Movies with Andrew, we've got the solo videos, we've got music reviews, we've got loads of upcoming things, especially on What Did You Think as well, this series. Check out Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for all the links. It will keep you all up to date. So anything else you want to say before we wrap this up, Andrew?
Just to do another quote. Look at you, the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, what a great bit for the mother to actually name them the Fantastic Four.
You had to get it in there somewhere.
Definitely. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video. All the very best to you.